Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Commutalo AIP. First of all, we are going to look at the physical characteristics of commuters, and we are also going to look at connections so that everything is clear and there are no doubts. To begin with, we have the display, which shows us general information such as the time, the date, the switch version, the serial number, the device IP address, and so on. On the back, we have the reset hole. If you have any problems, you can reset it by simply pressing and holding it for 20 seconds until it resets. We have the power port, which has a 12-volt, 1-amp power supply, the WAN port, and the LAN port. Both ports are configurable and are commonly used to configure a SIP trunk. This SIP trunk is when the provider delivers physical equipment and give us private addresses. Later, we will see what the operating modes of these two ports are and where we can define them. We have the here bit port, which is for high availability. I can connect one of these commuters together with another of the same model, and when one fails, the other would come in as a secondary, although it is worth mentioning that it is difficult for this equipment to freeze up. We have the green FXS port, which is for connecting an analog telephone, and similarly, the FXO port for a telephone line. Finally, we have the grounding part. On the other hand, we have the front panel with the SD port and USB port. Both ports can be used for call recording by connecting the SD card, USB drive, or external hard drive of your choice. There are no limitations, but it must be in NTFS format. Below, we have an IP.PBX with more FXS and FXO ports. Here, we have the FXS ports in green and the FXO ports in blue to connect the trunks provided by the carrier. Let's look at a diagram of how the connections are made when we purchase an IP.PBX. If we already have internet on the site, we will take a port from the modem and connect a UTP cable. We will run it down to a switch, and that switch is where we would recommend having the IP.PBX in the phones. The mode of operation would be switch mode, which means that the switch would be another device on the network. The modem or router above would assign IP addresses, giving one IP address to the IP.PBX, another to the telephone, and another to this other telephone. Once registered to the IP.PBX, they will be able to dial each other without any problems. Let's take a quick look at the switch interface and see what features it has. We have the dashboard tab, where we can see memory usage, whether it is full or free, as well as CPU usage and how much it reaches. This column will show the active trunks and all the ports on the IP.PBX. In the case of FXS, it will show if we have analog phones connected and registered. And the FXO ports for telephone lines, we can see the LAN and WAN ports, the SD, if we have a USB connected there. For the status of the PBX, it shows us the time, whether there are active calls or not, etc. It also shows us whether it has dynamic defense or whether File 2 band is active. In the system information, we can see the current firmware, which we can update through the Grandstream.com website. We also have the active calls menu, where we can view them internally or externally. The network status is simply a graph to visualize traffic. Here we can register extensions, create extension groups, and register analog trunks if we have FXO ports available on the IP.PBX. Here we would register the SIP trunks. We can have a mix of analog or SIP trunks. And here we would register the trunks via internet. The RTC web is through a web page to connect directly to an extension. The SCA is not used. We have outbound routes, which is the outgoing rule to be able to dial out, and the incoming routes where we want the call to ring. The configuration is basic. Here we will find the conference room, and in the case of the UCM 6302, we can have a video meeting. We have an answering machine, grouped voicemail, and ringing groups. For the paging tab, we can use speakers or a gateway. A call queue, a speed dial for quick dialing, an event list. We have feature codes, which is where we will see all the IP.PBX function codes for blind and assisted transfers and call redirections, call parking, which is parking the call in case our phone does not have enough lines. In the advanced settings we will have the capture group, dialing by name, a DISA, a callback, a call schedule, the fax that is rarely used now, an announcement center or any announcement we want to register, the SCA, emergency calls, call restrictions, if we want some extensions to be unable to dial others, time condition, and the messaging option. In PBX settings, you will see the option for PBX settings, which we will not explore in depth. This option is for music on hold, which plays automatically when we pause the call. Here we would choose the language if we wanted in English, Spanish, etc. The ringtones, the ports for calibration, and the cloud-related settings, such as the type of storage if we wanted on a NAS, an SFTP server, or a USB or hard drive. We also have some more specific PBX settings related to the network. I will pause here for a moment to explain the three PBX modes. We have switch mode, which is the recommended mode. The PBX would have to be left with a static IP. We can define an IP within the network that is assigned to us by the modem with its mask and the gateway, which would be the modem's IP. This is the ideal way to use a static IP so that the IP does not change. In case of the phones, they can be set to DHCP, and the phones would always point to the IP address of the PBX, so they will not be deprovisioned if the IP address on the phones changes. Dual mode is used in the event that a provider gives us a SIP where they provide us with physical equipment. We configure one interface for our local network and the other interface for the provider's network statically with the segment provided by the carrier. This segment would be on a different network or a completely different network from the one we have on the local network. The last option is route mode. This mode receives DHCP through the WAN port, which in this case would be provided by the modem or router above, and through the LAN port, it will grant the DHCP PBX on another completely different network. By default, it comes in the 192.168.2.100 segment, and we can change it. If you look closely, you will see that DHCP server is enabled, which means that it will grant DHCP starting from address 100 to 2254. This is the part one wanted to touch on. The rest, such as OpenVPN and DNS, are topics that we will look at little by little and discover what each tab is about. Without further ado, I bid you farewell.
That's it for today's video. If you liked it, you know what to do. Leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. See you next time.